Hey there, I'm Mel Abraham, the author of the #1 best-selling book, The Entrepreneur Solution, and the founder of Thoughtpreneur Academy, where we teach you how to capture, package, and monetize your ideas, what you know, the wisdom in your head, so you can have a greater impact, more freedom, and more income. And welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur Solution Show. In this episode, we're going to talk about something that I think is tremendously important, not only in business, but in relationships, in team building, in all aspects of your life, and that is alignment. How do you get alignment? What are the 3 keys to creating alignment? And this kind of came about, in the context of getting a question. Someone sent me a question via email, which you can do, and he literally said, I've been watching you, I've had a chance to go through your programs, and it's great information, and at the same time, I'm working with team members, with, in this case, his wife, that says, we're in the same book, but we're not necessarily on the same page. And so, I'm not using names because I felt like he wanted to keep it a bit discreet. And so I'm just not going to use names in this, but realize that I'm going to assume that there aren't other relationship issues that maybe are going on. And I want to talk just generally, whether it's a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, or just teams in general, just groups in general, this element of what does it take to get alignment. And we'll talk about the Alignment Navigator, and if you want to download that tool, just go to melabraham.com/session062, or just text me, My Legacy, one word, My Legacy, to 38470. We'll make sure we get you the downloadable action guide to help you out with this. But this element of alignment, think about this for a moment. Just maybe all of us at some point have tried to drive an out of alignment car, and then you let go of the steering wheel, and all of a sudden it starts veering to the right or the left, or it starts to shake. I mean, that's what happens to your relationships. That's what happens to your organizations when you find that things are not in alignment. And what I'm talking about in the context of alignment is a lot of it starts with values, and then moves from values to goals and vision and a number of other things that come into play when we deal with this. And I want to make sure that there is an alignment in place. Now, maybe you haven't had a problem with an aligned car, but I know that almost every single one of us have gotten that shopping cart with that bum wheel that's shaking, and it's just, and you're constantly fighting it. That's what's happening in our organizations. That's what's happening in our relationships. That's what's happening in our businesses when we don't get this right. So let's just look at why this is so important to us. Why is it so important that we get alignment in our relationships, in our teams, and everything? Because here's the thing: if we don't get this right, if we don't build alignment, if we don't do the things to create alignment, then you've got a number of people that are working and they got no direction. They're effectively lost in that way, and they're really kind of wandering aimlessly. The second thing that I see happening is that you have little progress. It's this kind of like at a standstill, that there's just little progress. It's a gridlock, if you will, in the organization, in the context of trying to move yourself forward. And I think the third problem we end up with is this constant tug of war. It's this constant resistance every time, every step of the way, of you trying to make a choice, make a decision, come up with something, and move the organization forward, move towards your goals, towards your vision. There's this constant resistance. You can't figure out why that resistance is there. A lot of times it's just because that there isn't alignment with the things that we're trying to do. But here's the cool thing: when we get this right, so if we don't get it right, we know what that brings. But when we get it right, things change. Now all of a sudden, everyone is got a clarity of direction. They're going the same direction. They're, if you will, rowing in sequence, in unity, if you will, which we're going to talk about in another episode. But there's a clarity of direction. The second thing is that you're going to find that when you all work together and you are aligned in vision and scope and how you're doing this, there's going to be leaps forward. You're going to actually make big, giant strides forward. And ultimately what ends up is you end up with flowing results, that things just flow. There isn't that friction, there isn't that tug of war, there isn't the challenges, and then all of a sudden the results that you're looking for start to flow out of that, and you gain momentum in the process. So when you look at this, all right, great, Mel, I get why I need alignment. How do I get it? How do we get alignment in this process? What do you need to know? Well, here's some things that I think you need to know as you're trying to put this together. Is that the first thing you need to know is that access is required. That's the first principle. In other words, that if there is supposed to be alignment, then I need to be able to allow the people that I want alignment with to have access to me, access to the vision, access to where we want to go, access to having communication, to being able to have a dialogue in a way that is meaningful. The second thing, which really kind of leads to the second thing, is that there needs to be an atmosphere of articulation. In other words, there needs to be an atmosphere of openness, of the ability to communicate. So it's one thing to have an open door policy and have access, but if you have that access but don't have the ability to articulate and not create a safe place for that to happen, then there isn't a dialogue where people can get on the same page to make that happen. So, do you have an atmosphere that encourages articulation, encourages communication, encourages openness? And then the third thing is that at some point, they need to feel that they're in an ally relationship, that there's actually trust between you, between the parties, to be able to do this. Now, trust for a number of reasons. Trust that you have a vision and you understand the vision and the dynamics of that and the impacts of that, but also trust in the sense of they feel comfortable coming to you with concerns and challenges and the frustrations in order to have that dialogue to really build out, if you will, the element of alignment, to create alignment at that level. So these are the things that you need to know. The question now becomes, all right, great. So I know why it's important. I know what I need to know. How do I bring it to life? And so I want to introduce you to a model that I use called the Alignment Navigator. And in the Alignment Navigator, we really start to look at the way that these three principles that I just taught you come together. So if you look at it, I want to create alignment, but I need to marry the three things that we just talked about. And effectively, that's access. So I need to give access, the ability to articulate, and the ability to create allies. And so here's how this plays out. As I said, access is being able to have that conversation, being able to walk in and have that dialogue, to truly spend the time to understand where each other is coming from, having a conversation to align that. We'll talk further about that maybe in a future episode to kind of help you out. Then to articulate, to be able to communicate, to be able to have that atmosphere of open communication. Here's the thing. In order to allow this to happen, I think that what we need to do is create an environment that's based on rhythms. And here's what I mean by that. Is that I want to allow for a communication rhythm. What I don't want to do is create an environment where any time that the only time someone's going to come and knock on the door is when there's something wrong. I actually want to create and instill a rhythm of communication. So this is why, and I know that you can go to meeting hell, but this is why I think that it's important in organizations, especially disconnected digital organizations, those that are telecommuting in remote locations that don't have the human contact. I think that it's really important for us to embed in a communication rhythm. That may be a weekly call. It may be an every other week call. I'm going to tell you that with your core people, I think that you need to have a weekly conversation. In some cases, if there's a lot of things going on, you literally might even have to have it daily, a daily huddle, if you will, to really build that. Now, I'm not talking about spending hours in a meeting. I'm simply talking about opening the door, having that conversation for literally 5, 10, 15 minutes maximum to really hit the hot buttons. What are the projects they're working on? What are the issues or obstacles that they're trying to deal with? Where are the kind of the choke points coming in, the bottlenecks coming in, and how can they help? What resources do they need? It's all you need to do. So now people feel supported, they're moving in the same direction, they feel heard, and now we can go execute and assign it. So if once a week all you did is sit back and have that conversation, to open that door, to create that rhythm, that would go a long way to start to build that alignment, to build the ability to create alignment through communication. The second part of this is when you start to realize that we need to build trust. That's going to come from the rhythm that we created, allowing them to communicate. Now, it doesn't mean that we're going to agree on everything all the time. Agreement and alignment are two different things. But if you are given the ability to articulate, to be heard, and in a safe place to know that you're not going to be ridiculed, you're not going to be ostracized, you're not going to be criticized in a way that's demeaning. You can be critical on the things that are said in the sense of analysis, but let's separate what was said and the dynamics of the strategy or the tactics or the communication from the person itself. Once it becomes personal, we start to destroy trust. And when you destroy trust, we destroy communication. When you destroy communication, we destroy relationships in that way. So what we need to do is make sure that we are nurturing trust. And the way we do that is to be open, to be honest, and to be tolerant, if you will, but not disrespectful. So we need to build trust, and that comes from having that ally type of feeling, that connected feeling with the people that you're communicating with, their ability to openly communicate. You're going to slowly build that trust up. And then the last piece of this is that when you allow for access and you allow for creating that ally relationship, ultimately what happens is that you've got a group of people that feel supported. Again, it doesn't mean that everyone is in unanimous consent and unanimous agreement, but they at least feel heard and supported. So these are the kinds of things that I think you need to look at in your relationship, be it a personal relationship, and I think that in answering this specific question, you may have some very special dynamics that come out of your personal relationship and not just your business relationship associated with that. But the key is this: no matter business or personal, are you allowing them to access you physically, emotionally, spiritually, and openly? Are you allowing them to be open and honest and articulate what it is that is either painting them or what they see, their ideas, to have a dialogue around them and work from there to build that trust and create a communication rhythm. First things first, if you don't have that communication rhythm, let's put one in. Let's put a regular call in once a week to have that dialogue, to open that dialogue up. And if it's going to be like a muscle that maybe hasn't been exercised, it's going to be tough to kind of get through it and kind of awkward. That's okay, because once you start to build it, it'll become part of the process. And then, are you allowing them to connect with you? Are you creating that ally kind of connection with them that allows them to build that trust, feel supported, and feel aligned? That's the key to trying to build alignment. At least that's the foundational elements to building alignment or creating alignment with your team, with the people that you work with the people that you work for, or even in your relationships. So that's the first piece of this. I'm going to come back in another episode. We're going to talk a little bit about how do you create unity, because as I said in this episode, that there's a difference between alignment and agreement. And And so how do we do that? I'll come back in another episode to talk about that. But this should help you out as you try to move forward, as you look at moving forward to build the teams. Build that rhythm in, give that opportunity for them to communicate openly, so you're building the trust, have them feel supported, and make sure that you're moving in the same direction. So I hope you found that of value to you. If you want to download that Alignment Navigator to kind of help you through this process, go ahead and go to melabraham.com/session062 or just text me, My Legacy, one word, no spaces, My Legacy 38470. I'll make sure that I get you the download of the action guide right there. If you have questions for me or challenges, just like this gentleman did, if you have questions, I love having a dialogue with my community. I'd love to hear from you. Just go to askmelnow.com or post the comments below or reach out to me some way. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear some of the challenges you're having, some of the things that you're going through, so I can support you, so I can kind of help you out, give you my thoughts on it to help you out with whatever it is that you're looking at trying to do. And if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button. Yeah, go ahead and click it now. Stay with me, subscribe, make sure that you get some of these tips on an ongoing basis. And while you're at it, let's share it with a friend. Let them in on some of these keys, some of these tools, some of these templates, some of these concepts that are going to allow them to build their business or create success in their lives, to live more meaningful, impactful lives. And I hope that I get a chance to talk to you, hear from you, and help you along the way. And until we get a chance to see each other in the next episode, may your vision be grand, your journey epic, and your legacy significant. See you soon. Cheers. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you subscribe so you get access to all of Mel's business and success tips. And if you like this episode, share it with a friend. If you have a specific business or success question, you can ask it at www.askmelnow.com. Remember, it's all about being bold, dreaming big, and living life your way. Because the world needs you. Until the next episode, may your vision be grand, your journey epic, and your legacy significant.